Good evening and welcome back to Tekton Zoo. I'm very excited today as this episode we are going to be putting our first exhibits into the zoo. For the first one I've chosen tree frogs because they are adorable, despite the fact that they've got enough poison inside them to kill you in seconds. Before we get into that though, what I wanted to show you was what I did after the last episode. The last episode, that was a pain. It took me so long and I was so rushed for time that I hadn't really finished some of the little detailing work on the Penguin Palace when I uploaded it. So I've gone back in and done some more work since then. So I'm just going to show you that first and then we'll get on to building our first exhibit. So the first thing I did was change the black surround on the floor to a colour that more closely matches the paths. It was a bit in your face for my liking, so that makes it just a little smoother. Next up I got some custom billboards in. I didn't want them to stand out too much, so rather than create them from scratch, I've taken the default that Frontier provides you with and then just changed it so that the animal's name is in English and Latin rather than Latin and whatever the hell it is, and then added the zoo's logo as well. Got some of these bio roofs in as well. I wanted everything to have a bio roof, but again ran out of time, so just put those in. Finally we get to the back of the enclosure. I put a gate on the staff stairs, tidied up the solar panel and the lift. Also put some toilets in for the guests because there were no toilets in the zoo, which could be an issue. So yeah, I think it makes it look better and I'm really happy with it. We're going to move now into the speed build where we will make a nice little house for some frogs. So the exhibits in this game have a bit of a bad name. I think because of the fact they're just a 4x4 box, which isn't very customizable. I think the builders in Planet Zoo, as in not people like me, people who are actual geniuses at building stuff in this game, find them very limiting. So I tried to work out how to make them a bit more interesting, and what I came up with was taking two exhibits and just rotating them away from each other slightly, which creates this nice negative space in the middle. I'm using the white plaster obviously to give it a nice clean modern look, and we're going to have red-eyed tree frogs on the left and then the layman's poison frogs on the right. So I'm just surrounding them with the plaster at the moment, and then I'm going to try and sort of turn them into a unified building. So in the end of it, it looks like one building with two viewing windows rather than two 4x4 boxes just stuck next to each other. I'm going to use the roof and what I fill in the space with to tie the building together. I'm going to try and get some nice curves into the roof, and then later on there'll be some planting on the roof as well to get that sort of white and green combo that I'm a big fan of. This building isn't based on any particular Tekton design, it's just something I came up with to try and match the style that they established. I went through a load of different iterations of this roof, each one getting more complex than the last, and I eventually decided on something dead simple. So putting some mulch in here and then some plants to get the effect of the left exhibit sort of melding into the right exhibit, and then the space is going to contain the signage, just making the roof a bit more interesting here and then making it darker as well so it sits in nicely with the planted area in the middle. I thought it was a bit too dark though with all the shadows, so I put a light in as well. So just while I finished that off, I could really do with the help of the viewers with this. Donation boxes. So I've got 5 different designs here. I'm really not sure which one to go with. So if you could let me know in the comments which one of these is your favourite, I'll put it on my Twitter as well, and hopefully we can choose which donation box can be used throughout the zoo going forward. Thanks. Should talk a bit as well about how the zoo is running, seeing as we're in franchise mode. So the answer is pretty well. The penguins seem to be a big draw. We're getting a lot of guests in and turning a nice profit. despite the fact that we've only got one species in the zoo at the moment. And once we've got these frogs in and the other exhibit I'll be building in a second, we should be running very nicely indeed. So back to the speed build. Then putting some access doors in for the staff, although I think I moved these later because of the struggling with the paths. Obviously rotating the exhibits in the middle of a gridded plaza causes issues with the pathing, so there's a lot of mucking about to get the way I want it, and then covering it all up with some more lovely plaster. I went with something quite in your face originally, this white surround, and again some other colours and things like that, and then I just ended up changing it all to match the courtyard, same as the penguin pool. I did quite like it like this. I was in two minds as to whether to change it or not. I was getting a lot of Z fighting, which was an issue, so I deleted it all and just put in a simple grid of grey plaster to cover up where the paths weren't. Next week we're going to work on the rest of the plaza. I want to get that finished and move into the next area of the zoo, which is going to be a forest. And we're going to make the parts of the zoo that aren't exhibits look less terrible than they do at the moment. I haven't done any custom signs for these. They're so small, I'm not sure if it's really necessary, to be honest. As well as rotating the exhibits very slightly to the left and right, I've also the one on the right I rotate through 180 degrees, I think, so that the scenery doesn't isn't the same as it is on the left hand side, so they look like two different enclosures. And then I put different enrichment, is it called enrichment in the exhibits? I can't remember. Different these things, enrichments, whatever, in as well. And then use the 2D facades inside to give the illusion of more space. I like the wood panelling on the underside of the nature plant boards, or whatever they're called, as well. I think that goes in nicely. And then for the logo, the 3D letters were just too big for what I wanted to do. I think they do look pretty cool. But they really obscure the planted area behind them. So what I did in the end was change them to the 2D letters, and then I just duplicated them and cloned them behind themselves numerous times, and you sort of end up with a 3D letter that is the same size as the 2D letters, which is useful. I think it looks better like this once it's in place and it's coloured, etc. I came up with an idea the other day, which, as the world's slowest builder, should be kind of fun. My trade centre is completely full of lemurs at the moment from London Zoo 1985, and I want to give them somewhere to live, so I'm going to try and build an entire lemur sanctuary / zoo live on Twitch, which will hopefully be on Sunday. We'll see how that goes. If you look on my Twitter, there'll be more information on there. Trying to find something to use to hang them with. I thought this would work until I realised it was about 8 feet long. So I think I used the bunting in the end and just sort of hide it in the roof, trying to find which one's the longest so I can use the most rope. And then we hang the signage off of these and then suspend them as well. It's more like wire than rope. Although if you look closely, patently it is rope, not wire. I think that looks nice. I'm just making it look 3D now. I just copy it 4 times and then select it and copy it once, so you end up with 8 of them all behind each other. It doesn't really stand up to close inspection, but as long as you don't go right up to it, it looks good. And it allows you to have smaller text, which is always useful. I gotta say, I love the animation on the tree frogs. in this game. Most of the exhibit species really are actually really good, but the tree frogs especially, the little animations they've got are so good, they're so realistic. You'll see some more of them in the cinematics at the end, but yeah, they're great. Nice bit of education for the guests. All this stuff is really important when you're playing in franchise mode. And then I copy it across to the other side, and we're going to have some snakes in this exhibit, but with obviously a few changes here and there, so it's not just exactly the same. So I wanted the area in the middle to more represent the large snakes that are going in here. So the yellow anaconda and the boa constrictor, they're both members of the boa family, Boidae, I believe it is, hence the sign. And I thought these vines sort of suggested the very large snakes that would be in here. Although I feel like both the anaconda and the boa constrictor are tiny when you look at them in these exhibits. I don't know if that's because of how large the exhibits are, but I've seen them in pretty sizable exhibits, you know, in real life. I don't know if Frontier shrank them, or if that's just me, but they always seem kind of a lot, especially the yellow anaconda. That's like the second largest snake in the world. It just doesn't look like the second largest snake in the world when you see it in game. And yeah, that's both the exhibits done. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for watching. I'll leave you with the cinematics at the end. Please remember to like and subscribe if you haven't already. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye.